that a protest fag?
Well, it's not a protest. I mean, this is what I do every day. And the Prime Minister wants to criminalise me. And the danger of it is that they did this in Australia. They made smoking almost impossible. They tax cigarettes to the extent where they're now £35 a packet. So the criminal gangs now don't bother with cocaine. Forget that, cocaine's boring. Cigarettes are very exciting. And so they run the whole tobacco industry. So if you take a legal activity and you effectively criminalise it, you hand it literally into the hands of the bad guys. I wonder whether the Labour Party have thought that through, or frankly thought anything through. I bet they haven't. So this is the Westminster Arms. It's a great institution. It's not been redecorated since 1911. There's still a division bell in there. And it's a great pub, successful pub. But you'll notice very few people drink inside it. They drink outside it. Why? Because they're allowed to smoke outside. And if the government, I've been coming here for 30 years, regular basis, every week for 30 years, if the government say that I can't have a drink and smoke outside, I won't come back. And look, I do understand people in enclosed areas didn't like smoke, but you've got the option now. You can be inside, you can be outside, you can avoid it if you want to. I don't think the government have thought through the consequences of this. Are we really going to be smoke-free by 2030? Well, let me ask another question. Are we going to be drug-free by 2030? So what the government's doing, it's attacking something that's legal, because it's given up on attacking the illegal drugs trade. But if you tax tobacco too heavily, which we're doing, you regulate, almost ban people from smoking anywhere, what you do is you drive it into the hands of the criminals.
With the tobacco and vape?
Oh, this is not just the Labour Party. I mean, this is the political class saying, we know what's best for you, you must do what we tell you to do. Yes, I mean, Rishi Sunak's plans were completely mad, that in 10 years' time a 25-year-old could buy a smoke and a 24-year-old couldn't. So yeah, it's all part of the same thing. It's all about government controlling our lives. Now, look, we don't want our kids to drink too much, to smoke, to take drugs, to be obese. But you do this through education, but you allow adults to make their own decisions. Well, the last time I looked at it, tobacco revenues were 4 to 5 times the cost of the NHS annually. So there's no economic argument. In fact, you could argue that smokers are the heroes of the nation in terms of the amount of taxation they pay. And as I say, we have an obesity epidemic going on in this country. Illegal drugs are out of control, millions taking them every week. But the government have given up with that. They can't deal with that, so they go for something that's legal, which they can control, and drive it into the hands of the criminals.
You're a smoker.
Yeah.
Are you worried about your own health at all when it comes to...
What's it got to do with you? What's it got to do with you? I mean, we make our own choices. We make our own choices. We know it's not good for us. We know donuts aren't good for us. We know these things.
Back at home, it's being reported that you're looking at tighter restrictions on smoking outdoors, pub gardens, outdoor restaurants, outside hospitals and so on. Is that something that you are considering?
My starting point on this is to remind everyone that over 80,000 people lose their lives every year because of smoking. That's a preventable death. It's a huge burden on the NHS, and of course it's a burden on the taxpayer. So yes, we are going to take decisions in this space. More details will be revealed, but this is a preventable series of deaths, and we've got to take the action to reduce the burden on the NHS and reduce the burden on the taxpayer.
You said when you became Prime Minister you wanted politics to tread more lightly on people's lives. This is the opposite, isn't it?
I think it's important to get the balance right. But everybody watching this who uses the NHS will know that it's on its knees. We have to relieve the burden, and that's why I spoke before the election about moving to a preventative model when it comes to health. I want the NHS back on its feet, but I also want it fit for the next, 75 years, just as we've had a brilliant 75 years already. And that means taking action in relation to preventable deaths, and these are 80,000 a year preventable deaths.